Supplements. Do they offer a significant advantage? Are they a replacement for your daily diet? Can supplements help you improve your athletic performance? Or do they pose any risks? For example, can they be contaminated? Hi friends, my name is Pratik and welcome to today's show on supplements. I will be taking you through a presentation on the various risks and benefits and how to develop a safe supplementation strategy. Alright, before we proceed on to analyzing the various risks and benefits of a supplement, it is important for us to understand what is the definition of a supplement. In your screen, you can see three different definitions of a supplement. One is the US Congress definition, which is pretty comprehensive in the sense that it covers a lot of different things, where it mentions that a supplement can be a vitamin, mineral, botanical amino acid, a metabolite. However, I would say that it's a little bit insufficient because it depends on whether a healthy diet is consumed or not. The European Parliament definition focuses more on the form in which a supplement is administered, such as pills, tablets, capsules, liquids. This definition, I would say, is a little bit better than the US Congress one. I find it a little bit more comprehensive and satisfactory. However, for the purpose of sports nutrition, we would go with the International Olympic Committee definition, which says a supplement is a food component, nutrient, or non-food component that is purposefully ingested in addition to the habitually consumed diet with the aim of achieving a special health or performance benefit. As I mentioned, that the focus of a supplement should always be that it should be consumed in addition to a healthy balanced diet, or when a healthy balanced diet does not have the required nutrients. So let's say if your diet does not have sufficient fruits and vegetables, you may consider taking a vitamin. So the vitamin becomes a supplement. Dietary supplements can come in many forms. Let us take a look at the four most common forms. One are functional foods, which are fortified or foods enriched with vitamins and minerals. One common example would be calcium enriched orange juice. Let's move on to the next category, which are formulated foods, such as sports foods, which are concentrated forms of regular foods but targeted around exercise activities. One of the most common ones here would be whey protein, which many of you would recognize or probably be using, where whey, which is the portion of milk which comes out when you're making cheese, the watery portion that comes out, that is micronized. It goes through a process of nanofiltration and you get a highly concentrated form which is very dense in protein, varying anywhere between 22 to 27 grams for isolate whey protein. The next one would be single ingredients. Now, what do you mean by single ingredients? For example, fish oil, or let's say ashwagandha, these are single ingredient supplements which are in a highly concentrated form. And then we have multi-ingredient supplements, which are essentially a combination of the above. So let's say you have some forms of whey protein in which you have certain vitamins added and sometimes probiotics are added, and that would sort of give a very comprehensive meal or a supplement to an athlete. So that is something I would say is a multi-ingredient supplement. Now, my purpose is not here trying to scare you about supplements, but as an athlete or as an individual who uses supplements, you should know what the risks involved are. Often these products have very dubious claims. One investigation led by the New York State Attorney General's office found that 80% of the products did not contain any of the herbs on the label, and some of them did not have anything except fillers. Now, many supplements, for example, the vegan B12 supplements, which is made out of spirulina typically, they were found to be rich in B12 not because spirulina inherently is high in B12, but because it contained animal fecal matter. Now, I am not sure about how many of you would be comfortable consuming animal fecal matter. I certainly wouldn't, and I'm sure many other athletes would agree with me. And many of these supplements have side effects, which include the safety of supplement, inappropriate use, and composition of the supplement. So, composition is something that we have touched upon in this slide, in which we have said that the supplement may not contain what they are claiming, and the others we will be reviewing. So, let us talk about why supplements are high risk. Supplements may contain banned substances. I have written about this earlier, where a gym trainer in Pune, India consumed DNP, a banned substance, and unfortunately she passed away. And the death was blamed on caffeine, which is a perfectly safe supplement to use. So as you can see, there is a lot of misinformation going on regarding supplements. Supplements may get contaminated during manufacturing process. So I mentioned about the example of vegan B12, where spirulina had animal fecal matter, and that's a great example of contamination. Supplement manufacturers often list ingredients differently than how they would appear in the banned ingredient list. Sometimes there are counterfeit supplements when you're purchasing online containing banned substances. And there can be presence of toxic substances like a high amount of lead or arsenic or cadmium and harmful microbes. So these sort of increase the risk of supplements. Now you have to understand why the supplements pose these risks. It is because the supplement industry is not very well regulated. Because the supplement industry is not very well regulated, there are a lot of different players. I would not say that all supplements are bad. My main objective through this presentation is to educate the athlete what are the risks they may face. When you know what are the risks, then you would know how to strategize your supplement consumption and you would minimize the risks. So how can we minimize the risks? In 2005, it was found that vitamin C and magnesium supplements were cross-contaminated with anabolic steroids. Today, about 40 to 70% athletes all over the world use supplements on a regular basis. But did you know almost 10 to 15% of all supplements may be cross-contaminated with banned substances? A good way to minimize supplement risk is through quality assurance. What do you mean by quality assurance? Essentially, quality assurance is a strategy that helps us to minimize risk. There are various agencies who are evaluating the quality of supplements. So, the first step is to make sure the supplement is in line with World Anti-Doping Association Code of Conduct. As an athlete, you don't want your career to be ruined by doping allegations or unknowingly taking a supplement which can contain a banned substance. The next is to carry out reputable quality checks through established quality assurance programs other than the FDA. Now, what are reputed quality assurance programs? You have Informed Sport, Trusted Sport, NSF, NZVT. These are various organizations which will help you evaluate the risks. Now, I suggest you go to the web page of each and every of these organizations and understand what are the testing procedures. For example, many of these organizations do QA tests for banned substances, but they do not always test for contents. So this is essentially a summary of various risks versus benefits of supplement. As you can see, the risks involved: the supplement may be ineffective, it may actually decrease your performance, it may not even have what is promised. So let's say you buy a supplement which says ashwagandha, it may not have ashwagandha, it may have just a normal herbal filler. There may be side effects, there may be risks to the health, as in the case of DNP we talked about earlier, and there might be banned substances which can show up in the doping tests. And of course, there is the cost factor also involved. Now, in terms of benefits, it can help you correct nutritional deficiencies and it can help you meet certain macro goals. Let's say, for example, whey protein helps a lot of athletes meet their protein intake. It can help in enhancement of a physiological or biochemical function to directly or indirectly improve performance. So that will completely depend on what kind of substance that you're using and what is the sport. Here is a simple guide to minimizing supplement risk. The first is a 4-step guide for athletes by the United States Anti-Doping Agency. Essentially, you should seek professional advice or consult a nutritionist who can provide you whether there is a clear health benefit and there is no food alternative. You should look at third-party certifications, which we talked about in the quality assurance slide. You should research specific warnings and you should review the label for red flags. The United Kingdom Anti-Doping Agency's guide, the ANARAC method, is also pretty effective. Assess the need, whether you need the supplement or is there a dietary alternative. Assess the risk, whether it contains any banned substances, whether it actually contains what it is promising. And the last one is assess the consequences. What can be the consequences? Lost money, lost time, side effects on the health, or a possibility of doping, which could be career threatening for any athlete. Again, this is not to scare you, but rather to provide you with a strategy to minimize supplement risk. So here is an excellent decision-making flowchart for safe supplement use, where an athlete can assess their performance goals and whether they are ready to use a supplement or not. Basically, this flowchart is telling you how to select a supplement and what kind of evidence that you need to look at, what are the risk factors, are there any adverse reactions, is it safe to use, are there any banned substances. So this flowchart is a very useful flowchart. I suggest you take some time, review it and use it as a decision making flowchart essentially going forward. In this presentation, we have discussed the risks and benefits of supplements. In order to minimize some of the risks, we have discussed about quality assurance methods which can help you provide extra layer of security. However, do be informed that quality assurance programs are not 100% foolproof. For example, I had mentioned about the Informed Sport program in the United Kingdom. Now, Informed Sport has a level of detection of 10 nanogram per gram for steroids and 100 nanogram per gram for stimulants. Now, this may not sound much. However, if you translate it to, let's say, a portion which an athlete is actually going to consume, for example, whey protein, 25 grams of whey protein, that would come to almost 2.5 milligram of anabolic steroid. So you need to remember that these will provide an extra layer of security, but these are not 100% foolproof. Thanks for watching today's video. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and if you like the content, share it among your friends. Thank you.